Godzilla is and always will be the king of the monsters. There's no denying that. Godzilla's dominance over the Kaiju genre is one of legend, and you can't act like without Godzilla, the genre would have reached the heights that it would have reached. But today I wanted to look at some Kaiju films that you may not have heard of that didn't come just out of Japan. I feel like we focus on so much of those films, and there are so many hidden gems that are somewhat ignored by the rest of the Kaiju fanbase. But when I mean hidden gems, I mean hidden gems. So films like King Kong and Cloverfield will not be on here. It's just talked about as much as Godzilla, if not more. And some of the films we'll be talking about I don't see discussed hardly at all, even though some of them are better put together than some of the Godzilla films are. And although I will warn, a lot of these films are quite cheesy, however. These aren't all spectacular creature features, but almost all of them will keep you entertained and are quite fun throughout their runtimes. So what I'm meaning is that some of these will actually be quite bad, but these are all entertaining for Kaiju fans, and that's truly what matters for this kind of film. But before we go any further, remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you liked the video, and let me know down below in the comments your thoughts on the video, and do you disagree with my picks or do you agree? Now let's get on with the list. To get the big dog out of the way first, let's start with quite possibly the best Kaiju film made in Japan that isn't a Godzilla film. That of course being the second film in the Heisei Gamera series, Gamera 2: Attack of Legion. The film follows a group of scientists and army men as they investigate a strange meteorite that lands in rural Japan, and out of the meteorite leaks a huge army of killer insects that start attacking people within the countryside. This all culminates into a huge subway attack where we see multiple people get killed in a brutal fashion, which is pretty crazy considering this is still like a kids movie compared to most of the other Kaiju films. The killer insects begin to form hives in the area that look like giant flowers that release a toxic amount of oxygen, making the areas around it completely inhospitable as they realize the insects are essentially colonizing the earth. And to make matters even worse for the people in the city, the threat becomes even more real because the flowers, when fully finished, are essentially ticking time bombs as they could blow up into a nuclear bomb type blast, leveling the city around them completely. And like many of the Heisei Godzilla films, this film does not hold back whatsoever. The violence in this one is actually pretty gritty for a Heisei film. And there are actually some pretty frightening scenes within this film. For example, the subway scene is quite frightening while watching it, as you just don't expect it to be such a creepy scene in a Kaiju film. And you can definitely see while watching it the Godzilla vs. Destroya influence, as it's definitely influenced by the darker tone of that film, and also the way the virus works is very much like how Destroya works in the very early stages. Then the Kaiju chaos begins when out of the ground emerges the Legion Queen, a giant Kaiju, but luckily Japan has Gamera to defend it from the Queen. And this is when the film really shines, as the monster design for this film is top notch and some of the best of the era, as the way the Queen works is pretty unique for a Kaiju film, and it's aged pretty well in comparison to a lot of the other ones in the era. And this is probably the best traditional Kaiju style film on the entire list. I cannot recommend this one enough. While this isn't overall the best film on the entire list, from a traditional Kaiju film perspective, this film ticks all the right boxes for a Kaiju film enjoyer. The fight scenes in this film are insane and put some of the Godzilla films to shame, and I do not say that lightly. This film holds no punches back. The special effects in this film are top notch. I would dare to say that Heisei Gamera movies might actually be better than the Heisei Godzilla films, because this film truly does everything right for a Kaiju film. This film is like if you took the Showa era funness from the Showa era Godzilla films and combined it with the Godzilla Heisei effect, which is really fun, and it makes for a very enjoyable viewing experience. And the threat in this film is one of the biggest threats in any Kaiju film that I have seen, and the stakes in this one are just so high. The film also has one of the, if not the most shocking Kaiju scenes that you'll see, and you'll probably leave going, wow, they actually went that far. Overall, a great film, but I won't say much more, as you should watch this one on your own to see just how great this Kaiju action is. 8 out of 10. Shifting to a bit more of a cheesy kaiju film, we got the 1961 British kaiju film Gorgo, a film following a giant lizard monster that is found by a seaman in Ireland after bursting out of a volcano and brought back to London to be watched by large crowds in the area. But the film has a big reveal that you probably won't see coming. The creature that they caught, while big, isn't full size and is in fact a baby, and the mother of it is not happy and is racing towards London at full speed to get its kid back. The film has some of the best miniatures from a film outside of Japan, and they aren't afraid to show it off. The film has some of the best monster scenes and showed that you could make a fun kaiju film outside the US and Japan, and some of the effects in this film would fit in well within a Showa-era Godzilla film, if not better than some of those Showa-era Godzilla films' effects. And the twist in the film makes the story have some layers to it that many other films in the genre don't have. And a lot of the time, the acting isn't too over the top and relatively believable, but don't expect something crazy special from it. This is a kaiju film through and through, because the story and characters are probably the least important thing throughout. This is a film for the big monster scenes, that is all, and that film makes it worth it due to just how cool the devastation scenes are. All the scenes in London are hugely satisfying to watch. There are crazy effects that are just pushing the boundaries of what you could see in a kaiju film at the time. This is seen as almost like a last hurrah for monster films outside of Japan at the time, because this is like the last major one, besides a couple of them that would come out slightly later, that was released outside of Japan to major success. And seeing things like Big Ben being annihilated by a giant monster is just so satisfying and extremely worthwhile for watching it. I will say what does hamper the film slightly is the overuse of blue screen that is generally not well done. Some of the random dialogue scenes even use blue screen, and it can be extremely distracting while watching the film, and sometimes the editing can be a little choppy and weird that it actually will take you out of the film. And generally when talking about films, I don't talk about the editing that much because usually you shouldn't be noticing the editing, but I could actually notice that the editing in this was a little choppy sometimes. There would be times where it would cut so fast that you had no idea what was going on. It sucks because it seemed to happen mainly during the scenes of destruction, which I think made it kind of sad because you want to see the things getting knocked over, but it just keeps cutting and cutting and cutting, and it doesn't help with the effects whatsoever. When you see everyone being surrounded by blue lines, that is extremely distracting, and it sucks that it's so obvious because it kind of pulls you out every single time while you're watching the film. But besides that, this is your standard kaiju film that is helped extremely by crazy good special effects. 6 out of 10. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms is a 1953 American film that follows a giant 200-foot-tall dinosaur that is awakened by a nuclear bomb test in the Arctic Circle which melts it out of the ice. After that, buildings along the East Coast start getting attacked, such as 2 boats and then a lighthouse off of Maine. And then the Beast ends up attacking New York City, but they realize the danger from the monster isn't just from the danger posed by its size, but by its blood after they shoot at it. The blood in the monster contains a deadly prehistoric virus, causing many more fatalities along the way. So the US has to find a way to kill the monster without it bleeding all over the city and killing everyone with the crazy dinosaurs virus. This film is a great showcase of some of the best stop motion of all time, as of course it's done by the legend himself. The film effects are done by Ray Harryhausen, one of the best stop motion effects creators of all time, and you can tell while watching it. And what also helps is the story put together is actually quite interesting. You can tell while watching the film that there is a commentary on the atomic bomb and the threat it could pose, as the film's primarily focused on how atomic bombs caused this disaster in the first place. And what's kind of crazy is that this film is an anti-nuclear weapon film, and this film was released in 1953, a whole year before Godzilla was released. While I'm not discrediting the original Godzilla film, as it's told from a perspective of a country that survived the nuclear weapon, I just find it funny that it's forgotten in comparison to Godzilla, even though the film follows a very similar plot, and this was released a year before. Now, do I consider it to be as good of a film as Godzilla? Unfortunately, no. The film is hampered by a pretty boring plot. Nothing much happens besides the giant monster scenes. So this is a kaiju film through and through because of that, because the fact that the plot is kind of ass. As good as the effects are, they can't save that. The effects though are great and make the film worth checking out on its own if you want to see some of Ray Harryhausen's best of special effects. 6 out of 10. Reptilicus is a 1961 Danish kaiju film, and it is really, really bad. Like, really, really bad. This film is hilariously bad and has quite literally the worst plot you'll see in any of these bad monster films, and you will laugh a lot while watching it. I'd highly recommend watching this one. This is the kind of film I would recommend definitely watching with a group of friends because it's just so hilarious to watch. The film follows a group of scientists as they find a giant section of a giant reptile tail underground and bring it up. But due to bad handling at the station, the scientists accidentally de-thaw it, which causes it to start to regrow at a rapid pace. And as it regrows, it gets to a massive size, revealing it to be the giant monster, Reptilicus. The giant monster then begins to attack downtown Copenhagen, causing crazy amounts of damage to the capital of Denmark. And this is the only monster film made by Denmark, and you can tell why they didn't make another one after this one. It is hilariously bad, and you will laugh the whole time while watching this, as it's a bad movie through and through. The effects are laughable at best, and the only thing that makes it unique is the location the monster is destroying throughout the film. If you want to watch a giant monster destroy Copenhagen, then I got a movie for you. That's what this is. But oh my god, this film is hilarious. I remember even as a kid, I thought this one was terrible, and this film shows off just how bad a kaiju film can be. Do not watch this expecting a great monster film, because this will not be it. This is a film you should want to laugh at and nothing else. Watch the film to say you've seen a film about a giant lizard destroying Copenhagen. Stay for the hilarious effects within the film. Like seriously, look at this. You cannot take this seriously. It's actually so hilarious while watching, and if you don't laugh, you're literally inhuman. 2 out of 10. The Host is a Korean monster film following Gang-doo. Sorry if I butchered that, as he tries to save his daughter Hyun-soo from the clutches of a fish monster coming out of the Han River in Seoul. The monster attacks and kills multiple people along the river and causes chaos everywhere that it goes. Then the monster begins to spread a virus around the city, causing chaos all around. And I should emphasize before going any further, this is in fact not the 2013 film of the same name. That is a cheesy alien movie that in comparison to this film is completely terrible. Do not make that mistake and watch that instead. This is a film that is truly worth watching. That one is not. The Host, however, is not cheesy at all. The Host is directed by Oscar-winning director Bong Joon-ho, and you can tell while watching it as his signature filmmaking style is all over this film and keeps you interested throughout the whole runtime. This film is the closest to an actual film, and it is definitely a must-watch for any kaiju fan. And I truly don't want to spoil this film anymore, so I'll just give my final score, which is an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and remember, if you liked the video, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all next week. Have a great week.